The first 5 verses of this week's Parsha VaYeira describe God appearing at the heat of the day, when suddenly 3 men appear at the entrance to the tent and are invited by their host to refresh themselves. Who is God appearing to? Who is this host that invited the 3 men at the entrance of his tent? Until the 6th verse, there is no indication to whom or about what the Torah is referring to. Why does the Torah keep these individuals nameless and the setting vague until the 6th verse? Rabbeinu Bechaya says that there is no anonymity here. The juxtaposition to the previous paragraph makes it clear that the person in question in these verses can only be a continuation from the subject of the previous paragraph. Since the previous paragraph dealt with Avraham and his circumcision, and the latter part of our paragraph is explicitly talking about Avraham, it is obvious that the subject of our nameless verses must be Avraham and no one else. As such, the Torah did not need to say it outright. Many other commentators do not believe that it is so obvious, and that the anonymity is coming to teach a message. Kli Yakar says that the anonymity in question was to reflect Avram's modesty. As previously mentioned, Avraham, at God's behest, circumcised himself and his household. God's changing his name from Avram to Avraham reflected Avraham's elevation in status and new closeness to God. Avraham, however, was still uncomfortable with his newfound rise in status and did not want that to go to his head. So to reflect and respect Avram's modesty, the Torah does not say who is the subject of God's visit, as a visit by God would be an extraordinary occurrence in and of itself. Only after God's visit had finished and the Torah starts telling us about the seemingly mundane visit of the 3 men and their news for Sarah does the Torah start referring to Avraham by name. The Rambam holds that the anonymity and vagueness is on purpose. It is supposed to remind the reader of being in a dreamy or disembodied state. For what purpose? The Rambam holds that divine encounters such as the one in our Parsha do not actually happen in real life but occur only in a dreamlike and prophetic state. As such, God's visit to Avraham, with the visit of the 3 men and their messages to him, and even Sarah's laughing, all occurred in a vision. The feeling of vagueness of the text, therefore, is to convey the feeling of encountering the divine through prophecy. Rashbam maintains that the opening verse is intentionally meant to be vague, not because it's trying to be anonymous or to set a tone, but because it is not actually describing a visit by God. Rather, similar to the heading of a chapter in a novel, this first verse is meant to be the headline and summary of the rest of the paragraph. As such, we are meant to understand it as thus. God is now appearing, and the following are the details and results of God's appearance. Now that Avraham is circumcised, God wants to visit Avraham as he has some important messages to relay, meaning that now he will finally have an heir as Sarah will give birth in 1 year's time. And also, God has some important business to discuss concerning the destruction of Sodom. God's visit to and conversation with Avraham took place through these 3 men or angels as they acted upon God's behalf, and the rest of the paragraph is the story of the visit. Even anonymity or being vague has a purpose and can play an important role. Shabbat Shalom.